sometimes get outside, move, walk, run, bike, not because we have to, but because we want to. Getting in a car might get us from point A to point B more quickly, more efficiently, but there's something to getting outside, feeling the sun or wind on your face, the heat, the cold. There's something to getting off the busy streets and roads and onto the winding paths and waterways that lead to nature. Moving gets our heart beating and the cogs in our brain whirring. It invigorates and it's good for the psyche. It relieves stress, it renews you, feeds the spirit. Taking to the byways less traveled, riding through forests, canoeing through canyons, hiking remote trails, helps us understand perhaps the true force in life, nature. Craig has agreed to help us with our chalice lighting this morning. Please come forward, Craig, and please say the chalice lighting words in your order of service. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. Thank you, Craig. So good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ogden. My name is Tim, and I'm glad to be leading worship today with help from Peter Lecain and John Hines for our special fourth Sunday Making Meaning service. Together, we try to make meaning of the strange, complex, joyful, challenging experience of being human. Today, our focus is on the connection between activity out in nature and spirituality. Testing and pushing yourself in the outdoors through sailing, mountain biking, walking, hiking, skiing, camping, gardening, or any other physical activity is good for the body, but it goes beyond that. It serves as a release valve from the pressures of life, refreshes the mind, connects you with nature, helps you in the search for your place in the cosmos. Peter will be talking about his experiences sailing. I'll offer a few of my own thoughts, but later in this service, you'll have the opportunity, if you so desire, to chime in as well, so we can all learn from each other. What outdoors activities do you take part in? What motivates you? What do you get out of it? Aside from better physical health, no doubt important, what else can we draw from our physical activities? We're so glad you're here today in this community that strives to be loving, inclusive, and compassionate. One way to connect with this community is to let us know you're here. If you're a newcomer, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We encourage you to fill out a newcomer card in the pews and put it in the offering basket when it comes by later. And please stay and chat with us after the service across the hallway. And if you're joining us online, please fill out the newcomer card online. If you've been a longtime member of the congregation, we encourage you to wear your name tag. This helps everyone feel more connected and helps our newcomers get to know you more easily. We love having people of all ages in this community, and as you came in, we hope you saw the basket of activities for hands that like to stay busy. This is for all of you of any age. We welcome all the wiggles and sounds of a multi-generational community. If you haven't already, please put your phones on silent. We are so glad each and every one of you is here today. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Peter Lecain, and I want to present some of the things that I wanted to capture when I was asked, like, hey, why don't you talk about sailing? And so this is what I came up with. One, it's like when I'm helming a boat, it gives me a chance to connect to my ancestors. It puts my mind in an equilibrium and puts me in equilibrium with the physical world. I am challenged to be mindful of other safety as well as my own. The only good outcome is when you get back home safely. Okay? Often when I am piloting or sailing a boat, I think about my ancestors who sailed the ocean for commercial gain. They were whaling and merchant vessel captains back in the 1800s. I also spent some of my early 20s working on the water with my father and my brother. Though we were only working on a small 40-foot wooden boat, I drew connection with my family ancestors. In a spirit, I was connected to my great-grandfather and this world in a physical sense. I did competitive sailboat racing when I was younger with my father, James. From a young age, like 7 or 8, until my late teens. But later, when I suggested to my dad that his young grandchildren would love this experience and time to share something that was a particular passion for him, the stars and the heavens just didn't align. And sadly, we never sailed together, and he never sailed with his grandchildren. I decided that I would take it upon myself and to look squarely in the mirror and to say that if I did not build a boat and name it for a grandchild, then I would not be able to enjoy the things that I would have hoped my grandfather or my father would have enjoyed with his grandchildren. So I built a boat with a severe leg injury, and it was a challenge to be flexible and nimble enough to even work with it. I named it Franny. It is only 13 foot long, but it carries a cargo of dreams, most certainly. It is a replica of a small boat that my grandfather and even my great-grandfather would have seen working in the harbor. It is a wooden boat design that my grandfather would have even used, and it was a perfect design and namesake for my little one. It's kind of like a runner's high, or picking a good line on a mountain bike, both of which I have also experienced. I imagine that horseback trail riders and whitewater kayakers would probably feel a similar feeling, though I have no experiences there. One false step or misjudgment might be costly. Perhaps you have activities that you do that have some parallel. I also enjoy building or restoring a craft and using it to its full potential. It is beneficial to my self-esteem. Testing my skill and limitations and expectations are a great catalyst for my own personal search for peace and happiness. My patience is tested, and limitations of a process and technique in shipbuilding is also challenged. It brings me joy to undertake a building or restoration project. Sure. Working with my hands and helping to keep problem solving alive. It helps keep problem solving alive. When I was employed in a technical field, to a large measure, it required me to think outside of the ordinary. I needed to reverse engineer things, and therefore I also have to reverse engineer a boat if I'm going to take it apart and get to the repair and make it back to something useful and functional. One mistake along the way, and you might end up with something you can't reassemble. And I've learned that the hard way. Sometimes I have to dig into historical data even to figure out how they put it together the first time, so I know how to put it together the second time. I would like to conclude my talk and offer that the next song that will be sung is There Is More Love Somewhere, number 95 in the Gray Hymnal. And we would like to dedicate this song to the people who are struggling in Minneapolis. Again, 95, There Is More Love Somewhere.
So I started biking as a teenager. First, it was about the bikes themselves. The technology, the prestige among my friend group of having a nice bike, something better than a Huffy or a Schwinn Varsity. Soon, though, it was the rides. Long bike rides into the countryside outside Lincoln, Nebraska, where I grew up. You entered a new world. The sounds of the western meadowlark, the smell of hay, farmland. No doubt, nearing the end of a long bike ride, getting tired, my mind would focus on getting done, on the food I would eat when I got home. But it put me in a different world. In college, Rhode Island, I remember on some Saturdays, riding from my bike from busy Providence to East Providence to Seekonk, Massachusetts, to some of the most spectacular country roads. There were scattered homes, but mainly it was open land with lots of trees, divvied by fences made of piled rocks that I figured had been there forever. With the trees changing colors during my forays in the fall, it made for a nice change of pace from the school week. In western Kansas, I remember riding bikes through wheat fields and smelly cattle yards, while it was groves of grapefruit trees when I was in South Texas. Here in Ogden, I'll get on my mountain bike and ride the Ogden River Parkway Trail to West Haven, and then south through Roy to Davis County, or south along the Weaver River Parkway Trail to Riverdale. With the trees changing colors during my forays in the fall, it made for a nice change of pace from the school week. In western Kansas, I remember riding bikes through wheat fields and smelly cattle yards, while it was groves of grapefruit trees when I was in South Texas. Here in Ogden, I'll get on my mountain bike and ride the Ogden River Parkway Trail to West Haven, and then south through Roy to Davis County, or south along the Weaver River Parkway Trail to Riverdale. I'm not too far from the hubbub of the city, but still, it's another world. I'm able to decompress, think, and even that close to civilization, commune with nature. It's the same hiking the trails around Ogden, visiting the national and state parks across the state and beyond. My forays remind me of who is boss, at least for me, Mother Nature. And they give me a new perspective on things, removed from the stress of work and unpleasant politics of the state, nation, and world. I remember just last summer canoeing along the Green River just outside Canyonlands National Park. High cliffs all around, no other indicator of civilization. It was awe-inspiring and a little daunting. I also remember setting up our tent in the backyard of our home here in Ogden one summer, sleeping outside. Maybe it wasn't the Grand Canyon, but it grounded me. I certainly don't solve the world's problems or solve my own problems, for that matter, via my little adventures. But they allow me to free my mind, allow me to ponder my place in things. I don't come away feeling I have all the answers, but getting out there, mixing with nature, I realize maybe I don't need all the answers. Sailing. I talked about my bicycling adventures, but there are more activities we engage in to help us break free. Hiking the mountains around Ogden, yard work even, walking, jogging, visiting Utah's national parks and other nature spots, and more things I'm probably not even thinking about. What are your favorite activities in the great outdoors? What do you do to break from the shackles of everyday life? What do you get from it? So now comes a time we invite a few of you to come forward to share your stories. They don't have to be long speeches, be short, to the point, but we want to hear from you guys. So please, so inclined, please come forward. Dharma?
I wasn't prepared for this. Okay, well. But it's great to talk about the outdoors. One of my favorite things and reasons why I came to stay in Utah. Back in New England, I took up backcountry skiing at about 16, and when I was tired of lines and lift tickets, you go to the mountain by yourself or with a friend and you climb up the old-fashioned way with climbing skins. I don't know if you're familiar at all, but you can put a sticky skin on the bottom of your ski. As long as you can free your heels, pretty much walk up the hill. When I got to Utah, I did a lot more of that, and here in Ogden, I'll just share one kind of fun but hairy adventure on the peak called No Name. It's over by Snow Basin. It's like the shoulder of Snow Basin, and it has the boundary of the ski resort. So what we've done a few times is take the lift to the top and pass through the boundary line and the gate. So you're in the back country, and all the warning signs are there. It says, you may die from an avalanche, and many have, and it is highly dangerous. And I found myself over there on the backside of No Name, a little bit lost, but I was with a friend, and neither one of us carried our avalanche gear that day. It was sort of an impromptu idea to pass through the gate, and we thought, okay, the risk is moderate. It's not high avalanche risk, at least, but we didn't know what we were getting into either, because it was a bit overcasting the cloud, and you couldn't tell really from where the sky was to where the mountain was, and just these trees were amazing, like cloaked in snow. They looked like snowmen, so you're really up there in an exotic kind of otherworldly place, but also hearts pounding, like facing fears of this could be it at any time. And so, yeah, because it got really steeper than we thought we were going to be involved in. So it was probably about 30 or 40 degrees, and the trees were tightly spaced. So we were trying to stay together. My friend and I would do what's called leapfrog. And you go just far enough to take 2 or 3 turns, and then you look back and make sure your friend's still there. And then he goes ahead of you. But I lost track of him, and I didn't know where he turned left or I turned right, but I would call and scream out his name and couldn't get any answer. So my worst fear was that he was taken in an avalanche, or else was just going down a different side of the mountain, and we lost each other. But 2 or 3 minutes later, somehow he popped out from behind a tree. And we were fine. And we made it all the way back down to the lower parking lot of Snow Basin. Thankful to be alive, and it's beautiful up there. I don't recommend doing it like I did it, though. Go with a guide or take your avalanche gear if you try that.
There's a Japanese practice known as forest bathing, and probably been doing it my whole life, but I didn't have a word for it or a name for it. And basically it's the practice of being in nature, whether it's your local city park or up in a remote mountain range or wherever you can do this. And the idea is it's not going for exercise, although that can be a byproduct, but it's the idea of totally being immersed in nature, not listening to any podcasts or music or anything, but really paying attention to all of your senses and everything, the colors, the smells, the feel, the sound of the wind in the trees, what the birds chirping, whatever it might be, and to, for a period of time, just totally immerse yourself. And it's used really around the world for improving people's mental health. It's been very successful working with people with drug addiction and with even Alzheimer and dementia patients to help them become more centered and feel more purposeful in their lives. And one of my favorite places to do this, when I ride my bike, I don't listen to anything. I know a guy in my users group for my bike put out this thing, what are you guys listening to when you're riding? Everybody just piled on like, what are you, crazy? You shouldn't be listening to anything. It's dangerous to do that. And so it really helps me focus when I'm on my bike. I can hear a little bit of my bike sounds, but more I can hear everything around me. And I have a favorite part. It's a very short area of the Ogden River Parkway. It's actually in the West Haven sector that it's just, you're along the river and the trees are canopied over the path, and in the right conditions, the pathway's all dappled in light. And it's just so beautiful. I slow way down and I just breathe in and enjoy it. And it's like my reward for that, about 8-9 mile ride. And so I encourage people to consider the idea of just getting out into nature wherever it might be and taking it all in, because we need this right now for our mental well-being. Thank you.
I want to talk about what Peter didn't tell you. So the boat is 13 feet long. It's got 2 masts, and it's designed to be a rowboat and a lighthouse tender for the Chesapeake Bay. We're not the Chesapeake Bay. So the favorite place to go sailing, where the pictures were, was Manaway Lake. So we're up there. He said, why don't you come sailing with me? And so I went, and I've sailed a lot myself on a bigger boat. And I should have been in the back by the tiller. He said, well, you sit in the front. And so I'm in the front looking backwards at Peter on the tiller. And that boat is tricky. Manaway Lake has mountains around like this, a lot of bluffs, so the wind can shoot this way or that way. And when we were up there, he said, it's going to be pretty calm. Well, as you know, weather changes quickly in Utah. So to make a long story, it was a long day, short. I'm sitting in the front with crummy knees. My knees are a lot better now. And a backache, being knocked back and forth. We survived, barely.
I've been blessed to enjoy the out of doors in many different environments. Going back to when I was young, we had a sailboat in San Diego, and we would go out of the bay and go into the ocean, and that was so great. And I would sit up front, but I would be on the bow with my legs dangling over, and it was meditative. I was 10 years old or something like that. I didn't really understand much about the sailing that was happening, but it was just a totally relaxed feeling, and I enjoyed it. And I've also, even when I went to college, I went to UC Santa Cruz, and they had a lot of forests around them, the redwood forests, and I would often go for walks in between classes or something like that just to have a break. And now, Bill and I, we often go walking, and one of our favorite places is Buse Pond. And it's a little bit boring in some ways because it's the same path, but it's always changing. Like this week, there was ice on the pond and ice up to the boardwalk, or the pathway, and it was beautiful. And I always enjoy being able to unwind in nature.
Well, since Dharma mentioned backcountry, going out of bounds and going down the hill, and it's like danger, and it can be, reminded me of something that I like to do. It's a little less dangerous. And if, show of hands, if anybody's ever been up to the Ogden Overlook, like above Snow Basin, you go up to the parking lot there, and then there's some double track trails, and then switchbacks that go up to the top. And one of my favorite things to do is to put hot coffee in a thermos and get going with a headlight on my head, and I would have fish scale skis on, and I would ski up from the Snow Basin parking lot to the overlook, and then sit down with my cup of coffee and turn around and face the sun as it's coming up, and then watch the sun come up and enjoy a cup of coffee and just relax. It's like nobody's on the mountain but me. I felt like I was like being on the moon. And then I got to go down the Power Pole Trail, which is off to the right, before any of the snowboarders had come. I do it on a Friday that I was off, usually. And so I would ski down that side in the powder and get down to the parking lot, which was always a rush of a ride coming downhill. And you're skiing down the mountain, and it's like your skis are floating underneath the snow. And you can see just the tips of your cross-country skis up through the snow, but the rest of it's just covered, and it's just blasting past you, but you have control. And so I would ski down to the bottom, and I would be like hauling my gear to the car, and someone say, "So where are you going?" And it's like, well, for me it's too late. I already went. You know, I'm done for this because I have to go to work or I have to go do something else. But it was something that I needed to do in the morning, and it's just really beautiful to see the world from a different perspective.
What about the mountain lion?
Yeah, it's like, well, I was up there at the same time, and I was wearing sunglasses, or I was wearing these glasses, and they were all fogged up. And there was a mountain lion, and she was off in the woods there, and she let out a growl at me, and it's like, I took off my glasses, like, I'm not a predator, like, I'm not going in, and I started talking, it's like, I'm not going anywhere near where you are. Thank you for letting me know that you're there. And then later, some teleskiers came up behind me, and I said, did you see the mountain lion? And they go, no, we didn't see it. I said, did you hear the growl? And they go, was that what it was? And I go, yep, that's what it was. And she growled at me. It was like the only time I could see her. I'm so nearsighted, I could barely see her like scampering off. But it was definitely a treat.
I love the prompt. This is fun. Yeah, in our increasingly fast-paced, industrialized, automated, and now AI world, it feels so good to connect with nature. That is certainly medicine for me. And one simple thing that I try not to take for granted is just sunsets. I wish I could say sunrises, but I'm usually asleep. But sunsets, it's like every day at around 3, 4 p.m., I get this excitement, like, what's it going to look like tonight? Because it's different every single time. There's no one sunset exactly like the other. And I really try and like appreciate the generosity of nature's grand show every night. And yeah, it's one of those things, like the more you appreciate, the more magnificent it seems to get. I also am inspired by how you could hike the same trail. Who was it that said Buce Pond? What's your name again? Debbie. You could do any hike, any trail every day, and it would be different every time if you're paying attention. And you could go your whole life hiking the same trail or a different trail every single day, and you would only scratch the surface. There's just so much beauty to experience, and that excites me.
Morning, everyone. I'm Demetrius. I'm a newcomer. The two thoughts I have to share. First one is more, for me, I run. I've run for a long time. Similar to how, keeping your hands busy can keep your mind focused. For me, my body moving helps me get my mind to focus. And I think a few others mentioned that flow state of, that comes from the forest bathing and everything else. The other one is on the side of doing outdoors activity with risk. I think of particular rock climbing or skiing or just peak bagging adventures. That the people you can take those risks with tend to be the people you keep close in your life. Right?
You have to trust them.
Yeah, you have to trust. You have to communicate. It's everything. So those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. We bless all these stories. Our prayer, Imperfectly Divine, comes from Reverend Alex Klingenberg. Spirit of life, earth and sea and sky, place of deep longing in my heart, find your way from silence to voice. Give me strength and courage to speak truth through my life. For I am a creature of the universe, small but infinite, a momentary body in the sea of life, and also the sea itself. I am a gathered bit of energy and one who gathers, a creation and a creator. Let me not hold too tightly to one form and lose the other, for we are not form but process, ever-changing and ever-renewing. Help us see that we are neither the beginning nor the end, but something perfectly natural and imperfectly divine. Amen.
Before we continue that prayer with our ritual of candles and stones, I was reminded of a meme that I see online repeatedly sometimes. I don't know, you may have seen the cartoon with the big panda and tiny dragon, and they're just trekking along the landscape. And Big Panda says, "What's more important, the journey or the destination?" And Tiny Dragon replies, "The companions." Okay, we continue our collective prayer by coming forward to engage in our weekly ritual that helps us to collectively hold the challenges and the joys of being human. As you light a candle, let your hopes, memories, and gratefulness for this beautiful, complicated world and for our lives in it. As you drop a stone into the sacred gathered waters, let it release you from those heartaches, burdens, regrets, and quests for forgiveness. Consider them to be held in a supportive community. Please come up now. gratitude for this community, a community filled with care and courage, love and resistance. Voice or in body, and turn to the center aisle and offerings. This is where we commit to supporting this community and the ministries ahead, both within our walls and without. Thank you. Invitations, things that we can do. First of all, we have a new admin, Shallon. Wave.
I think
she's out there?
Yeah, she's outside. Yeah.
Okay. I looked into the crowd and went, Shallon? Okay, Shallon is our new administrator, and she is breaking into the walls that prevent her from getting the order of service out and everything else. It's going to take a little while while we get this transition, so be patient. There is a book club that meets every month, and this next month, February 18th, they're doing The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. March 18th, Let Them by Mel Robbins. It's a nonfiction. And then April 15th, it'll be James by Percival Everett. Okay. And then remind you that Codger Coffee meets every Friday at Grounds for Coffee on 30th and Harrison. And I would say, what, Keith, about a third are UUs in attendance, and the rest are just other members from the community, and the conversations are quite lively. It is Girl Scout cookie time. If you want to know more about where and when you can get your cookies, Debbie is here and is quite equipped with that information. And if she's busy, talk to Karen. Okay. Suzanne, you wanted to talk about your show?
For over 20 years, I've had a studio show in my home, and next Saturday and the following Saturday from 10 to 5 is the last studio show I'll have, because Peter and I will be moving this year, and you're all invited. I hope you'll bring your friends, and even people who aren't your friends, because all the money that goes from the sales will go towards the travel of my exhibition. So it'll be going to Oregon and Washington, and for sure to New York City, to the National Sculpture Society Gallery. So you'll be looking at work from $20 to $5,000. I've got 2 butter dishes left. I made about $60,000 on those butter dishes, so they're pretty popular. Then vases of all kinds, from about, I guess, 75. There are bowls for 50. Sculpted vessels, anywhere from, 200 or whatever, to large platters on the wall. The most expensive one is like a snakeskin to feel, and that's 700. And all kinds of stuff. There'll be wine, so be happy and buy stuff. And if you need my address, it's 1799 Navajo, Navajo Drive in Shadow Valley. So I hope this can get into the newsletter.
Dylan.
Mine's quick. If any of you happen to live in Utah House District 10, which currently is represented by Jill Coford, it was one time represented by Rosemary Lesser, please come and talk to me after church. Thank you.
Chalice. Let me add that Dr. Rosemary Lesser showed up at Codger Coffee last Friday.
As someone who is a spiritual codger, I have attended Codger Coffee as well, and it is lots of fun. So, real quick, on the back bench, in the credenza, or whatever you want to call it, the table, sorry, words, in the foyer, we do have some free whistles, some free ice whistles, to help keep our neighbors safe. Please do not engage, as we know that they're, as reporting has told us, and as we've seen with our own eyes, they are untrained and unvetted and dangerous, so just sound the alert, but try to keep your neighbors safe, but yourselves safe as well, okay? Anyways, and if you need more, I've got some, so.
I've got some.
Yeah.
Thinking of safety, by raise of fingers, I'm a retired teacher. By raise of fingers, how many exits to this room? Okay, and from each of those exits, how many exits to the building? From each, that makes 4 total. And there's a few that are kind of discreetly back in the other building. So something ever happens in here, perhaps I hold the offering basket over here. Do you know where the fire extinguisher is?
It's in the kitchen. Oh, maybe right here.
Okay.
We've got to say one more thing. It's been
Quickly.
an issue, even though we're supposed to be smart people. I gotta say, some of you are not real smart about lighting the damn candle. So what you do is you take this thing, you knock off all the burnt charcoal, and I've explained this, I don't know how many times, you dip it in the wax of that candle. It's got wax on it. Now you light it, watch. Boom. So you don't have to go messing around with, all that stuff. And in case there's a problem, we keep a blanket underneath. We used to have a guy with a, cowboy hat, and he was part Indian, and he'd take this thing around with long hair, and I'd always be ready to cover it up, because you can light this whole thing up. So, there you go.
As the service comes to an end, join me in saying the chalice extinguishing words in your order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. I hope you're able to get out and hike, bike, walk, ski, if we get more snow, or do something else outside in nature. It's good for the body, good for the mind, good for the spirit. Thank you for coming and have a great week.